Rita Curran, who was 24, had just made the biggest choice of her life by moving out of her parents' house and becoming independent. In July 1971, she was brutally killed, which shocked the neighborhood. Who would want to hurt a nice teacher in second grade, and what would it take to solve the case? Hi and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Today's story takes us to a place in the U.S. state of Vermont called Burlington. On July 20, 1971, a terrible crime happened in this beautiful city, and it took 52 years to figure out what happened. Eleanor Donahue Curran and Thomas F. Curran held their baby girl for the first time on June 21, 1947. Rita Curran was her name. Rita was the first child in the Curran family, but they had two more kids after her. The Curran family was well known and liked in the area where they lived because Thomas Curran Jr. was a caring and loving younger brother, and Mary Curran was a beautiful and kind younger sister. This was especially true because her father, Thomas, was in charge of zoning in the neighborhood. As a kid, Rita was quiet and sweet, with a shy personality that did not show how kind and smart she really was. She did well in school and got a bachelor's degree. Rita lived with her family for 24 years until one day she chose to leave. It was the first time she had lived away from them. And she moved into an apartment with 3 other roommates at 17 Brooks Avenue in Burlington, Vermont. When she became a well-liked second-grade teacher, she reached her goal. Rita was a teacher at Milton Elementary School. She taught the second grade. All of her students liked her, and she changed their lives in a way that lasted. Jim Robar, who was one of her students in the second grade, still remembers a kind thing she did for him. He used a teddy bear he liked as a prop in a school play, and when it was over, he asked Rita if he could keep it, and she said yes. Rita and her little sister Mary used to sing and tap dance together a lot. Rita worked part-time as a chambermaid at the South Burlington Colonial Motor Inn during the summer. She was known for how hard she worked and how committed she was. Her coworkers and guests liked her because she was always friendly and honest. Can you think of a reason why such a quiet, kind, and warm-hearted person would have been killed so violently? On July 20, 1971, at 1:00 a.m., one of her friends, Beverly Lampier, came home late from a date with her boyfriend. That night, only she and Rita were there because her other 2 roommates were not there. She could smell blood and iron as soon as she opened the door. When her eyes adjusted to the dark, she saw a person lying on the ground. As she got closer, she saw that it was Rita, who was half-naked and covered in blood. Her hair was still in curlers, so when the attack happened, it looked like she was getting ready for bed. Beverly yelled for her boyfriend, thinking he could save her friend, but it was too late. Rita was dead. A brutal and pointless act of violence had taken her life. Beverly had a lot of questions about who could have done this and why someone would hurt her dear friend. She called the cops right away when she heard that her friend had died. She was scared and upset. The night was dark and scary, and she kept thinking about Rita, who she had just left a few hours before. The night was very quiet as Beverly and her boyfriend waited for the cops. They did not know why no one had heard screams or sounds of fighting. It was as if the murderer had just disappeared. After a short time, the cops showed up and began to look into what happened. At first, they thought Rita might have been killed for money, but Rita's purse, which had about $20 in it, was found unopened, so they changed their minds. Investigators started to look at the whole flat because it was clear that a theft was not the cause. They saw blood stains in the kitchen, which suggested that the killer may have left from there. Rita's body was sent for an autopsy after the crime scene was carefully looked over. As soon as the medical inspector, Lawrence Harris, saw Rita's dead body, he knew the attack was brutal. They found marks on her face and head all over. It was clear that she had fought for her life with all she had because she had left behind signs of a hard fight. But in the end, the killer's tight grip around her neck was what put an end to her voice for good. If the physical abuse was not enough, the killer tried to kill her in the cruelest way possible. Under her body, her torn clothes had been thrown away. Rita Curran was a well-liked teacher and chambermaid. Her dead body was a cruel reflection of the terrible crime that had been done. The details of the attack were too horrible to think about, and the fact that she had not been sexually attacked was a small relief. Investigators searched the area around 17 Brooks Avenue for anything that might help them figure out who killed Rita Curran so brutally. Investigators went door to door and talked to and questioned people around 17 Brooks Avenue to see if anyone might have seen or heard something out of the ordinary in the hours before Rita's body was found. They asked people to think back on that terrible night and come forward with any information that could help bring justice to the Curran family. Leads looked at every piece of evidence they could find and went down every possible road. Even though they tried hard, they got nowhere. They found one cigarette butt next to Rita's dead arm and hoped it would help them figure out who killed her. But DNA technology was not good enough at the time to get a picture from the butt. The killer stayed a secret because he or she stayed hidden in the dark, keeping Rita's family and friends in the dark. FBI agent John Bassett made a disturbing discovery in 1979 that shed light on the situation. He realized that the motel where Curran worked was located next to the well-known Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers, where Ted Bundy was born. As Bassett investigated further, he noticed striking similarities between the crime scene and the ones associated with Bundy's known victims. Bundy had a specific method of operation, which involved observing his victims for an extended period before attacking them. Until 1979, neither the investigators nor the public were aware of these connections. He broke into the rooms and houses of his victims to find out how they lived and which doors they always left open. Rita's sister thought Ted Bundy killed her sister and pointed out some connections between Rita and the other people he killed. She said that all of Bundy's victims had long brown hair split down the middle, which she thought was his way of getting back at his ex-girlfriend. Bundy later said that he picked his victims because they were young and attractive, not because of their hair color or style. But when the cops looked for similarities, they found things about this case that did not fit Bundy's profile. Kevin Scully, the chief of police in Burlington, said that Bundy would attack his victims while they were sleeping, tie them up, and then beat them with a weapon. Rita fought back because she was awake. She was handcuffed with fists. Most of Bundy's crimes were planned and involved tying someone up with a weapon. Rita's murder, on the other hand, seemed to happen on the spot and only involved hands and fists. Before he was put to death on January 24, 1989, Bundy said he had not killed anyone in Vermont. The Burlington police said they had looked into the chance of him being involved in the Rita Curran case. Rita's husband was out of the country at the time of the murder, so there were no other clues that could lead them to the real killer. The case went cold again, and Rita's murder stayed a mystery for years. In 2014, though, a cigarette butt that someone had carelessly thrown away near the crime scene turned out to be the tip that solved the case. Detective Lieutenant James Treat refused to give up on solving the long-standing mystery of Rita Curran's murder. With no matches found in the National Criminal Database, Treat assembled a team of experts to re-examine the case. They focused on the DNA profile obtained from a cigarette butt found at the crime scene. Through extensive analysis and searching various DNA databases, they identified William Darris as the perpetrator. Darris's close proximity to Rita's apartment, combined with the DNA evidence and his troubled past, made a strong case against him. Darris's ex-wife confessed to lying about his alibi, revealing his threatening behavior towards her. Another shocking revelation came from Darris's second wife, who claimed he had stabbed a woman and tried to kill her in a similar manner as Curran. Unfortunately, the investigation concluded with the sad discovery that Darris had died in 1986 from a drug overdose. The resolution of the case brought mixed emotions for those connected to Rita, with support from family and messages of gratitude pouring in from people nationwide. How did you feel about the case? Were you happy with how it was solved in the end? Tell us in the comments below, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting true crime stories.